Considerate la vostra
Call to
semenza.
mind from whence ye sprang. Ye were not formed to live the life of brutes, but virtue to pursue and knowledge high.
Questo è Dante.
That's a quote from Dante,
Inferno,
Inferno,
il 26esimo canto.
the Divine Comedy, Canto 26, Ulysses. Feed the body, feed the mind, feed the planet. Be aware, be informed, be responsible.
Care amiche e cari amici,
Ladies and gentlemen, friends,
oggi
mother.
parliamo di cibo.
Today we're talking about
Sappiamo
food.
tutti che non si può continuare così.
Now we all know that
Le
things
risorse
can't
del
go on as they
pianeta
are.
e le risorse di noi umani sono
The
limitate.
Earth's resources
E i
and
nostri figli,
humanity
le nostre
itself are
figlie e
finite.
le generazioni future,
Our children and the children of our
tutti hanno
children
diritto ad una
and
vita
future
buona
generations
almeno quanto
have
la
the right to
nostra
a good
su questo
life,
pianeta.
at least as good
Ma
as the
basta
one we
anche
have
solo il
had on
piccolo
this earth.
contributo di ognuno
Even a
per
little
cambiare
contribution,
il
if we
mondo,
all
e
make
oggi
one,
vedremo
can
come.
change the world. And today we'll see
Benvenuti alla
how.
conferenza Etica e
We
Cibo,
can do it.
la settima
Welcome to this
conferenza
conference,
della
Ethics
serie
and Food.
Cultural
It's the
Entrepreneurship,
seventh
una
conference
serie
in the
nata con
series, Ethics and
l'intenzione di
Entrepreneurship.
sensibilizzare, informare,
The series was designed to
responsabilizzare,
raise
dunque
awareness, to
rendere
inform
migliore il
people,
pianeta,
and to move them
applicando
to
i
take more
principi dell'etica nella
responsibility.
vita quotidiana.
That is, to apply ethical principles in our
Quest'anno
daily
la
lives to
conferenza è
improve the
davvero
planet.
speciale, dato che è
This year's
patrocinata
conference
dal
is a
Comitato
special one
Scientifico di Expo
because we have the
2015.
patronage of the
Ed è
Scientific
per me
Committee
davvero
of
un grande
Expo
piacere darvi il benvenuto a
2015,
Milano,
and I'm delighted to
non
be able
solo
to
perché
welcome
ci
you here in
troviamo nel
Milan,
luogo magnifico
not
come
only
Palazzo
because it's such
Bovaro,
a beautiful
e abbiamo
venue
di
here,
nuovo un
Palazzo
programma
Bavaro,
straordinario e
but
relatori
because we have
e
an
relatrici
extraordinary
davvero
program
brillanti.
with some
Sono
outstanding
particolarmente
speakers.
felice di essere qui
I'm particularly
perché
happy to
Milano è
be
la mia città
here
natale,
because
dove
Milan
sono
is my
cresciuta e
hometown.
dove
This is
torno
where I grew
sempre.
up, and
Qui
I
vive la
always
mia
like to come
famiglia
back here.
e
My
dunque
family
una
live
parte
here,
del cuore. E lasciatemi
so my
aggiungere
heart is here.
che apprezzo molto
And
le
I'd like
mie
to
radici
add
italiane, la
that I
cultura,
very much
l'umanità e
value my
naturalmente la
Italian
cucina.
roots, the humanity,
Tutto mi
the
rende vivere la
culture,
vita.
and of course the cuisine. All these
In questa
things
giornata
add a
dedicata
lightness to
all'etica
my
e al
life.
cibo, tutti gli
Ethics
interventi,
and food
nonché
is
le
today's
riflessioni del
topic, and
filosofo
all the
Julian
contributions we're going to hear,
così come la
including
mostra
the
d'arte
keynote later
e
by
la
our
performance
philosopher
musicale,
Julian
ne
Nida
tratteggiano
Rumelin,
alcuni
the
aspetti.
art outside in the corridor, the
Davvero
music
però
we're
non
going to
possiamo
hear,
essere esaustivi
will
su
cast
questo
light
tema.
on different aspects of it.
Nella
Now,
mia
we can't be
relazione io
exhaustive about
presento
this
tre
topic,
punti
and
particolarmente
in my
significativi
introduction
nella
I'm
mia
going to
carriera.
focus on 3 points
Nutrire
which
il
seem
corpo,
particularly important
nutrire
to
la
me:
mente,
the
nutrire il
body, the
pianeta.
mind, and the
Questi
planet,
tre punti
how to
riflettono
feed
le
them
tre
all.
fasi del percorso
These are
filosofico per
3
diventare cittadini
stages in a
responsabili
philosophical
e
journey
cittadine responsabili,
en route
ossia
to a
sensibilizzare,
civic society that takes
informare e
responsibility.
responsabilizzare.
That means be
Il
aware,
primo
be
punto,
informed,
nutrire il
be
corpo,
responsible.
significa
The
prendere
first point is
coscienza,
feed the
ossia
body, and that
percepire il
means
corpo che vive e
being
si muove,
aware,
sentire il mondo
being aware of our
interno a noi
bodies,
e attorno a
which
noi.
manages,
Ad
which
esempio
moves
quando si
us,
cammina per
and which
andare al
enables us to
lavoro
feel the
o a
world in
scuola
and
o
about
mentre
us.
siamo qui
For
ora
example, on the way
e
to
così
work, on the way
sentirci
to
parte
school,
della
or gathered
natura
here
del
today.
pianeta. E dunque il
This
corpo è
way we can
l'involucro
feel that we are
che
part
racchiude
of
la nostra
nature,
identità,
part of the
la
planet.
persona e la
Our
mente,
body is
e
an
che per
envelope
vivere
that
deve
cloaks our
funzionare
identity,
e
our
necessita
mind,
energia,
but which needs
dunque
energy to
cibo.
function: food.
Vi ricordate il film di Woody Allen?
Do you remember that
Tutto
Woody
quello che
Allen
avreste
film?
voluto sapere
Everything
sul
you always wanted to
sesso,
know
ma
about
non
sex
avete
but
mai
were
osato
afraid to ask?
chiedere? Il film riporta
The
minuto
film
per minuto
tells, in
cosa
great
accade
detail,
all'interno e all'esterno
what
del
is
corpo
happening
di Woody Allen,
inside
il
and
protagonista,
outside the body of the
mentre la
character
sua
played by Woody
eccitazione
Allen,
sessuale cresce nel
when
corso
he's
della
becoming
cena con
sexually
l'amata.
excited during
Tra
a
una
romantic
puntata e
dinner
l'altra
with his
seguiamo la
beloved. We can
circolazione del
see
sangue,
the blood
vediamo il
pulsing
cuore che
through his
pompa
veins,
e come
the heart
l'eccitanza e le
pumping,
bevande
the
arrivano nello
food and
stomaco
drink
e
arriving in his
naturalmente lo
stomach,
sperma e
and
gli
ultimately
spermatozoi che
the
si preparano al
sperm
lancio.
preparing for the launch.
Immaginiamo ora un analogo film
Now
sulla
let's
digestione.
imagine
Poter vedere cosa avviene dentro di noi
a
quando a
similar
tavola mangiamo
film
e
about
beviamo
digestion.
e le sostanze
And let's
attraversano l'esofago per
imagine
finire nello stomaco
what we would
dove poi si
see
mischiano e si
if we
disperdono in
watched
direzioni
the
diverse.
food and drink
E come
running
reagirà
down the
mai una
esophagus
singola
into the
cellula
stomach,
dei miliardi che
mingling and then
contribuiscono a
breaking
tenere
down into
vita?
components?
O quando magari siamo di fretta e
What
non
confusion
mastichiamo
for those
con
millions of
attenzione,
cells that keep
ma
us alive.
ingurgitiamo
And sometimes we
qualcosa
don't even chew
parlando al
things
telefono.
properly. We devour our food, sometimes we're on the phone while we do it. Sometimes people aren't even hungry when they eat, they simply want something to stuff themselves with in order to deal with their dissatisfaction with their daily lives. Just imagine how the stomach feels when all this food and drink arrives. Sometimes it absorbs them happily, sometimes it rejects them and protests. So next time we want to eat, we should ask ourselves, do I really want to eat here? Or should I perhaps take a walk? Or improve something in my relationship or at work? And if we decide for the walk option, we shouldn't simply choose the shortest route from A to B, but establish contact with our surroundings. A tree, for example, a favourite flower, an enchanting landscape, or other people. That is the beginning of this philosophical journey. And this is an important moment in our lives. We can ask, what do we really need? What do we like? Another question we ought to ask ourselves before we eat is, do I really like what I'm eating? Or would I prefer something else, except that I don't have the courage to say so, or I don't have an alternative, and I simply put up with this shapeless something before me? For example, if we're in a canteen, at school, at work, in a hospital, where the food is too fatty, too heavy, pre-cooked or preserved, we should say so. We should start a petition. We should get people to listen to us. Take a photo, put it on the social media. We should stop simply swallowing whatever is put on our plate. If the food looks bad, smells bad, tastes bad, and we feel that maybe it's not good for us, then let's not eat it. Do I really have to work until I drop? Or take tablets to calm my body? The importance of food for our mood, for our performance, has been demonstrated by a study which shows that judges are more or less severe before and after lunch. Their judgments vary depending on whether they've had their lunch. They're harsher before lunch. And the same applies to other occupations too. So our body has limits. We should take a break now and then, forget the pills that generate that good mood or improve our performance. Something else that struck me, which seems to me to be very important before we eat, is we should really ask whether we are beautiful outside and inside. We're in Milan here, the capital of the fashion, where shoes have to match handbags, scarves have to match blouses, earrings have to match rings and so forth. Everything is beautiful. But actually, we gulp that espresso down in haste, possibly puff a cigarette, pop a pill to make the day bearable. And for lunch, maybe we take a quick sandwich, salad if we're lucky, and then in the evening, something in the microwave, and we need another pill to go to sleep. Now, what does the inside of a body like that look like? It's like painting the facade of your house without dusting the inside where everything's dilapidated and musty. Let's start trying to reconcile our inside and our outside. Establish harmony. Think about how we express ourselves. Language expresses the way we feel, and we often use food metaphors. The way we speak influences the way we think. We say, for example, that was a fruitful meeting, or that makes me sick, or that whetted my appetite. Let's think about advertising, all you can eat. 2 for the price of 1. Is that positive? Is that a good idea, or does that encourage obesity? And what about those over-sugary snacks for the kids in their school breaks? We know that obesity is spreading amongst young people, and that stays with you in adulthood, and it influences your mental and physical health. Overweight and obesity are a global problem. We talk about globesity these days. And children and young people in the Western world are particularly at risk. If we want to change that, we have to feed our mind. We have to move around, we have to be curious, we have to be passionate, like children who are so involved in their game that they sometimes forget to eat. That brings us on to the next point, which is feed the mind. That means being informed. Knowledge, know-how can spread exponentially fast these days thanks to modern technology, not like in the past. Knowledge and technology are used now to produce food, to preserve food, to market it. The food industry produces and sells food for consumers, which consumers need, of course, and ensures that we have food supply, observing the laws, of course. But this industry is also developing new products all the time, often innovating according to trends. For example, these days in Germany, you can get vegetarian sausage. Or sometimes technology invents new products like artificial eggs, which you can get from vegetable produce in California, which is quite good because that means chickens can have a less stressful life. We consumers are not lost in this world of food where we are bombarded by things like the Stone Age diet or celebrity menus. We have a right, we have a duty to be informed. And if something isn't working well, we need to make pressure to change it. As Rousseau said, man is free not because he can do as he likes, but because he does not have to do what he doesn't want. We all know what we have to do. You don't have to listen to me. We know that the food industry, genetic technology, and growth only make sense when they're sustainable. Because food production needs to take ecological factors on board if it's going to be sustainable. Food is the source of our joie de vivre, and it's important not only for newborn babies, it's important at every stage in our life. So we need a consistent approach to a sustainable earth. Let's think about that. There's no point, if you want organic food for your children, to get into your 4x4 and drive to the shops miles away. What's the point of thinking about your food and not about the air we breathe? We need a consistent, holistic approach. That would be more effective. A sustainable planet enables our children and our children's children to lead that good life in the future that we are so used to. There are lots of good ideas out there, and they feed our minds. Let's think about things other people have been trying to do. Let's get that information. And now I'm going to tell you a bit about Alan Savory, because Alan Savory is really a good example for this. Alan Savory is 70 now, and he's one of the best examples of the positive force of the brain, and specifically how to look after the planet. He was born in Zimbabwe, what was then Rhodesia, and as a young man, he was a ranger. At some point, of course he was a bright lad, he noticed that animals kept in captivity destroyed the land, whereas the big wild herds in the Serengeti didn't. And he observed the following in the behavior of the wild animals. These are three factors in the behavior of the wild animals, the following. First of all, they live in huge herds, up to 1 million animals in a herd. Secondly, they stick together. They stay close together, which means they can resist attacks by lions, crocodiles, and other predatory animals that have to skulk around the edge of the herd. Thirdly, they're always moving around, following migration flows, which means that they trample and fertilize a particular area for just a few days and move on somewhere else. And then they don't come back to that area for many months, which means that the land is not overstressed, or it's only overstressed for a few days and then has the time to regenerate. Savory compared that behavior with the behavior of animals living on farms, and he realized that on the farms exactly the opposite happened. The breeders, the farmers, broke the animals up into small herds. They kept wild animals, predators away, which meant that the animals behaved differently, and they locked them into pens or into fenced-off areas and kept them in the same place for years. So instead of this cycle whereby the animals fertilized the earth and then moved on, they destroyed the ecosystem and reduced the productivity of those areas. Savory's idea was to imitate nature and to establish a natural relationship between the soil and the vegetation. And to do that, he kept the animals in a big herd, kept them close together in small areas, and then made sure that they moved on. So, first of all, he made intensive use of the soil, and then that land had a long period of regeneration. In the 1970s, Savory moved to the United States and imported his system, which he called holistic management in agriculture, and he set up an institute. And since then, his system has spread around the planet and is used in Africa, America, including South America and Asia. And readers have seen that they can actually reduce their costs and regenerate the earth. The earth becomes more resilient to floods, erosion, and other natural problems. It's an ecological approach to animal husbandry that protects the environment and at the same time enhances productivity and profit. But that's not enough. This is one of the best ideas for combating climate change, because restoring the pasture land means that carbon dioxide can be better absorbed from the atmosphere. So if animal husbandry is ecologically appropriate, we will have a healthier, more sustainable earth. Our children and the children of our children and future generations have the right to a good life, at least as good as the one we have had on this earth. And of course, there are lots of other ideas. For example, in Italy, we're quite lucky. We have slow food, this Italian movement, which is now well established. And this Italian movement has its own university, places for people to meet, and members all over the world. Another good idea in Italy is the gruppi di Questo Solidare. These are purchasing collectives where people get together in order to buy food from the producers. They can do it at a better price, but they can also buy healthier food produced under better conditions, which they can determine. Wasting food is another problem. It's a waste of resources, and the French government a few weeks ago adopted a law obliging supermarkets to pass on unsold food to the poor. It's an example we should all follow. New scientific inventions are helping us, and in recent times we've discovered something else, that we don't know our bodies very well. For example, there are microbacteria in our intestines that we're really not at all familiar with, and they influence our brain. Julia Enders, a German author, has written a book about this, gut reaction. It's called Darm und Gehirn, or Scham von Darm in German. Now there are some good ideas there too, and we can derive action from it. Good things do happen when we take the trouble to think about them. There's a German called Peggy Porschen. Peggy Porschen trained some time ago as a pastry cook in Germany, but she thought about the fact that she had a rather different mission. She wanted to decorate cakes. She wanted to use sugar not to feed people, but to model, because we all know that sugar is unhealthy. So she thought she could be creative with this sugar. And her cake decorations were extremely artistic. Her parents were very surprised when she said, no, I'm going to go off and move to London. She's been so successful there that, for example, the wedding cakes of Stella McCartney and Kate Moss were designed by her. And of course other celebrities have called on her services too. So we should get information about these other ideas and encourage them. We can become entrepreneurs, for example. We only have to open our eyes as we are walking around or at home and look to see what needs improving, what social problems can we resolve, how can we enhance our culture. For example, by founding a startup and earning money with our own idea, our own inventiveness, our own passion, our own commitment. It's good for us, it's good for the planet, and it keeps us slimmer, so it's a better way of keeping slim than going on one of those diets. Another way of improving the world. The last point I'd like to talk about relates to the theme of the Expo. It's about feeding the planet, and that means being responsible. We know that in the year 2050 there will be 9 billion people to feed on this planet, and that is going to be difficult because the food supply is also going to be influenced by climate change and demographic patterns. 30 to 40% of the food that we produce is already thrown away, even though 1 billion people face hunger. But we can manage this system back better. We saw from the market crisis in 2008 how food prices suddenly jumped up 30%. And as so often, there are two different solutions that a lot of people are mooting to solve this. One is apocalyptic, the other is euphoric. Both of these have hysterical traits, as Nida Romelin would say. For the Greens in German, the solution is to buy organic food and not eat meat. They have scientific evidence to prove that that would work. The technophiles, on the other hand, have other scientific evidence, and they want to modify the gene pool of flora and fauna. In my view, quite apart from all the esoteric solutions that people also put forward, in my view, what we need is cooperation. We can see this in game theory with the prisoner's dilemma. What we need is a diversification approach and better regulation of the market. Recent studies have shown for governments, farmers, and others that there are a number of keys to improving the situation. First of all, we have to make it easier for small farmers in third world countries to produce more. Secondly, we must make ecology the focus of our food production without excluding technology. Organic farming, which is a philosophical approach, also assists farmers to understand the relationship between weather, soil, insects, animals, that is, to understand the entire agro-ecosystem. But these insects and others can help us to solve our food problems and make our food system more resilient to changing climate conditions. Some regard organic farming as a luxury for the middle classes that cannot possibly produce enough food. But there are a lot of examples which demonstrate how food production certainly can be enhanced, increased by organic methods, especially in developing countries. Savory's story that I just told you confirms this for us, just as other studies do about projects in Africa, which demonstrate that by using organic methods you can actually improve the harvest between 80 and 100% compared with traditional methods. The third point, the markets have to be regulated in order to deal with crisis. And the fourth point, we're going to have to gradually become accustomed to increasing prices and more organic input. Ségolène Royal, the one who criticized Nutella a few days ago, we're talking about the French environment minister, she actually said economy and ecology are linked, and I would bet that we are entering a new world where economic interests can be reconciled with the interests of the planet. Ségolène Royal didn't just criticize Nutella, she has an idea here, a vision for Ferrero. She said actually Nutella could be organic, there could be an organic version, and that would help Ferrero to sell more of it. So let's come on to the conclusions. I'd like to wrap up by saying what my main points have been and say that if we want to feed the planet in the future, we need an interdisciplinary approach with low-tech and high-tech components, with a number of adjustments. We should eat less meat and we should waste less. We need cooperation. And here we come back to the prisoner's dilemma in game theory, and we need better regulation of the markets. Apart from that, we all need to be committed as individuals and be more aware of the nutritive value of what we eat rather than just stuffing ourselves. If the food doesn't look good, doesn't taste good, doesn't smell good, if we take the view it won't be good for us, we should not eat it. And we have to do something to eat decently, at work, at school, in hospital, at home. We have to be committed to combat famine, starvation, but also waste. We must look on the inside and on the outside. We need to observe the world and we need to sharpen our minds. And once we have analysed the problems, we ourselves can contribute to improving the planet. Our children, the children of our children, and future generations have the right to a good life, at least as good as the one we have had on this earth. Thank you.